to stand the shock of the horrifying sight. Ezima fainted on that very spot. Instantly, people in the neighborhood, considering the situation of the incident, started making immediate burial preparations for the mother. In the most frightening manner, Ezima cried beside her mother's lacerated body. All efforts made by sympathizers to console her were fruitless. Instantly, 2 professional grave diggers were paid to dig a shallow grave at the bushy area not too far from the incident scene. After all burial arrangements were made, the corpse was taken to the graveside.
Nemo, 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 Mama. Precious beast, I love you, Mama.
Mr. Okafor led Ezima to the graveside, where she was given a shovel to pay the dust-to-dust last respect to her deceased mother. With shaky hands, she scooped the wet sand and dropped it in the grave in which the body of her mother was already laid. Mr. Okafor led her away from the graveside. Mr. Okafor led her to his house, where mourners converged to console until about 11 p.m. when they all dispersed for the night. Mr. Okafor, a local baker, whose farm is located 3 miles away from where he lived, insisted that Ezima sleep in his house with Adaku, his daughter, since his wife and other children traveled to the village. Apparently, he hoped that Adaku's very presence and words of encouragement would help reduce Ezima's sorrow and sadness. Left with Adaku in the children's room, Ezima cried uncontrollably. All efforts made by Adaku to console her were fruitless. She tried to tell her that it was better for her blind, miserable mother to die than to stay alive and living dead. Ezima's situation increased at about 4 a.m. in the morning, when Adaku finally lay down to sleep. Left alone in that condition, Ezima developed a sudden phobia for existence and wanted to terminate her life. In that height of psychological overtone, she stood up silently and left the room, go to Mr. Okafor's sitting room, opened the entrance door, and straight off. She walked quickly to her mother's grave. Plucked the leaf and dropped it on her mother's grave. And proceeded on her mission. She walked silently to the path leading to the uncompleted building. As she got to the uncompleted building, to where her mother kept their things, brought out her appointment letter and set it on fire. After burning the paper, she climbed up to the topmost floor of the building. As she got to the sharp edge of the building, she closed her eyes in tears and let herself loose from the frightening height. As she was falling, she wailed and struggled in the air. A wasted attempt to resist the force of gravity betrayed her last-minute wish to remain alive. Like a faulty aircraft, she crashed on a dry heap of sand. Her right leg, being the first to touch the ground, was badly fractured. As the fractured leg began to swell from all directions, a mixture of blood and fluid gushed out from her mouth and her nose. For about an hour, no one knew what had happened to her. After returning from that night's production, Mr. Okafor stared at his uncompleted building and recalled the incident of the previous day. Not knowing that Ezima was lying in a critical condition there, he staggered back to his house. On getting to his house, he saw his entrance door wide open at that time of the hour. He walked cautiously to know what had happened. Ezima, on a frantic search for Adako, collided with him at the entrance. Adako, what is the problem? Papa, sorry, Papa, it's Ezima, I don't know where she is. Adako, what do you mean you don't know where she is? Go and check the corridor, check everywhere. Papa, I have checked, I don't know where she is, I've checked. What kind of a problem is it this one again? Eh? Why didn't you stop her from going out when she was walking? Papa, no, Papa, I was sleeping. Oh yeah, lock up there. Let us quickly go and look for her. Immediately, Mr. Okafor and his daughter ran straight to the woman's grave. But Ezima was not there. But the footprints and the green leaf on the grave were indications that she passed through this path. In a bid to find her, they combed through the bushy path close to the grave. But Ezima was not there. They go back to the tarred road, walking towards the uncompleted building. There, Adako saw Ezima sprawled on a dry heap of sand. She ran frantically to her, thinking she was dead. Held her and prayed to God to help save the poor girl's life. At the scene of the incident, Mr. Okafor went through a mental struggle, having a picture of the kind of force of violence she must have gone through to have sustained such bruises and swelling. At that moment, he was totally exhausted and had no money, but his usual sense of duty prevailed over his consideration for self. With the help of Adako, he carried Ezima to the tile segment of the road, flagging down oncoming vehicles. But to their greatest surprise, all the motorists that stopped by drove off after seeing Ezima's critical condition. It was until at about 45 minutes later, as a good Samaritan, after listening to Mr. Okafor's story, offered to take Ezima to the general hospital. My people, all efforts to get to the general hospital on time were fruitless, as the hospital officials insisted that they must deposit the sum of 30,000 naira before Ezima would be admitted into the emergency ward. Mr. Okafor, who had no means of raising 30,000 naira, ran straight to Ezima's boss, narrated Ezima's plight in a nutshell, and pleaded with him to help save the poor girl's life. Prime Minister was sad and devastated to hear the news. Quickly, he wrote a check of 30,000 naira in the name of the hospital and gave it to Mr. Okafor. And also, he gave his official vehicle and driver to enable him get to the hospital on time. To offset all contingencies, he gave him a cash sum of 20,000 naira and also wrote a memo to the general director of the hospital. Immediately, the medical director got the letter. He issued the medical officials on duty to take Ezima from the casualty ward where she was lying helplessly to the emergency section. From the emergency section, Ezima was taken to the theater where medical officials struggled to save the poor girl's life. It was later revealed by one of the doctors that Ezima's suicidal fall, which affected her bronchial tubes, was the cause of her comatose. And to enable her breathe, an artificial breathing device was inserted into her windpipe. With the help of a ventilator pump, oxygen was constantly distributed round her system. The next day, Prime Minister found out time to come visit Ezima at the hospital. At the casualty ward where his driver parked, he came down from his car and went down to the receptionist. From the receptionist, he seeks permission to go into the emergency ward. But then he was offered a special seat. When the receptionist phoned the medical director, informing him of Prime Minister's visit, immediately the medical director and other members of the medical board rushed out to receive him in a very warm and welcoming way. He was taken to the emergency ward where Ezima was lying in a critical state. The medical director on duty explained Ezima's condition to him. Prime Minister pleaded to him to help save the poor girl's life, to do anything he could do to save the poor girl's life. Prior to his departure, he exchanged greetings with the medical director and promised to keep in touch on telephone. He reminded him to make sure he telephoned him on Ezima's recovery. Mr. Okafor, who has been in constant touch with the hospital, sent greetings to his daughter Adako, telling him that Ezima has finally regained consciousness. That very day, Prime Minister and his wife visited the patient, the hospital, with a lot of food and fruit for the recuperating patients. From that day henceforth, on Prime Minister's orders, enough food and fruit will be sent to Ezima for the 2 months she has to spend in the hospital. 2 days before her recovery, Prime Minister wrote a check in the name of the hospital to offset Ezima's medical bills. On Prime Minister's invitation, Mr. Okafor visited Prime Minister to discuss issues concerning Ezima's subsequent living condition. Mr. Okafor, who had no means of catering for Ezima, was extremely happy when Prime Minister offered to take care of Ezima's well-being. That very evening, Prime Minister brushed the subject of Mr. Okafor's visit to his wife. To his greatest surprise, his wife opposed the idea. Honey, so you mean you want to bring that girl into this our house, eh? I don't understand. What do you mean by that? She's all grown and very beautiful. So if that girl were to be your close relation, would you allow her to go back to that and finish out in such a state, a woman? See, that is not what I am saying, though. But the thing is, so okay, what is she coming in as? As a house girl or your second wife? Tell me, man. Tell me. What is that? See, I sympathize with her, but we don't know the extent of what rumor mongers will pendle about us if we allow her to stay with us. I don't give a damn about what rumor mongers decide to pendle about us. Eh? You seem to misunderstand my interest. What I'm trying to do is nothing but to make sure that girl is rehabilitated and to stop her from harboring further suicidal thoughts in the future. Eh? Don't give a damn about what rumor mongers decide to pendle about. Nonsense. Based on your understanding, Ezima was received into their private guest house the very day she was discharged from the hospital. Prime Minister's wife treated her to a sumptuous dinner that night in appreciation for her quick recovery. The weekend of Ezima's arrival and acceptance into Prime Minister's house came to an end. Monday morning brought back the brisk business-like atmosphere which is characteristic of Prime Minister's house. By 5 a.m. on the dot, the exit of the night security guard coincided with the arrival of the day security guard. By 6 a.m. on the dot, the houseboy was already on his feet to take care of his master's early morning needs. Alone in the garage, Prime Minister's driver was busy washing both official and private vehicles. By 7 a.m. on the dot, Prime Minister was seated to take his breakfast, which lasted for about 10 minutes. Then he was driven to work. Adako, Ezima, who was yet to come to grips with her new environment, woke up around 8 o'clock in the morning, had a bath, and came down to the sitting room. On getting there, Emenike, the houseboy, took her to the dining table where she had her dinner, her breakfast. Ezima, who had little or no appetite, nibbled on her food, wondering what she was doing in such an unusual place. For the umpteenth time, she reviewed her situation again, wondering whether it was not better for her to go back to her uncompleted building than living in an illusory existence in Prime Minister's house. While she was lost in her thoughts, Prime Minister's wife walked in Startled Ezima greeted her in a most polite manner. Prime Minister's wife responded and told her she was leaving for the market. Ezima ran quickly to her to inform her to take permission if she could go visit her former house.